Agriculture is one of the key issues that needs to be addressed across the African continent. The need for skilled workers and better technology, the issue of poverty, and the recent phase of drought may seem like a great task, but according to an avid African traveller and, of course, author of Connect with the Continent, Behan, there seems to be rapid growth in agriculture across Africa. Growth in agriculture is equivalent to 3 to 4 times the growth in any other sector in the world and contributes more than 30% of the gross domestic product for most countries in Africa. This week, of course, US President Barack Obama will be visiting a number of African countries to address several key issues affecting the continent, including agriculture, which remains the key to bringing rapid and inclusive growth to most of the economies here. Now, joining us in studio is Behan himself. Good morning, Terry. Thanks for joining us again.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Last time Barack Obama visited South Africa and talked a lot about that was about 2 years ago now, I think, talked a lot about cooperation within the agriculture sector, Africa being a bread basket and having to feed itself. You travel all over the continent. Is that one of the things that really stand out for you now, and can we make the link?
No, absolutely. I think he was referring to one of his, in the inner sanctum in the Democratic Party, you got people like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
She was a real visionary in the agricultural sector. And I think in Africa, when you talk agriculture, you talk kind of pre-2008 and post-2008. Before 2008, what had happened was the world had, in its kind of well-meaning fashion, flooded the continent with a lot of low-cost product, essentially in the form of aid, making it very difficult for local African farmers to sell their stuff because there was no market for it.
Yeah.
That's shifted since 2008 into food security. And the withdrawal of aid, or the refocusing, has gone into investment, and it's not aid. So he's quite right in the sense that we do need to be able to feed ourselves as a continent, but there are being some real limiting factors to that previously that I think are now being removed.
Can Africa become the breadbasket of the world? I see a stat that says 50% of the world's arable land that's left is on the continent. And is it our responsibility to make sure that we turn it into a breadbasket for not just for the continent, but for the wider world?
I mean, yeah, that statistic's absolutely correct. I mean, you can fold China, Russia, India, and you've still got space into the continent. The opportunity is really big, but the challenges are also equally as big. I think we have a responsibility to, first of all, feed ourselves before we feed the rest of the world. But the challenges are quite significant. I mean, you have a lot of subsistence farming going on across the continent. You have a challenge where farmers are not properly educated in how to get the right yields from their crops. Good example is African farmers average about 1 ton per hectare, where mechanized farms globally average about 4 to 6 tons per hectare. So there's a lot of work to do to get the value out of that asset that we have.
You talk about the challenges, overcoming those challenges. One of the key issues has to be technology. How are we going to overcome the challenges of technology on the continent? Well,
technology falls into 2 categories continentally. It falls into mechanization. So you got a situation where you don't have people on the land themselves. They're using modern farm equipment that will get them a much greater return. The other thing is using technology for education. There's a great little app out of Ghana called Farmline. It talks about 200,000 subsistence farmers across the continent, sharing information with them on pricing, on education, and on best practice. And it's those kind of sort of technological evolutions that we need to kind of push agriculture forward.
How far are we off from overcoming or from seeing this technological evolution happening?
I think it's going to take a while. There is a cultural bias in Africa towards small-scale farming. There are not a significant number of large farms, sort of mass farms. So what you have is this inhibiting factor which prevents sort of agriculture from growing as rapidly as we would like it. I think the key issue, as we've spoken around, is mechanization. The other issue is definitely education. You see graduates coming out of colleges with degrees that have never sat on a tractor, that have never plowed a field, that have no real connection to what actually happens on a day-to-day basis on a farm.
It's clear that there's this massive opportunity. Is there the political will? Is there enough peace on the continent for us to seize this opportunity that sits right in front of us here on the continent?
I think so, and I think it's a little bit late in coming. I think if we draw the parallels between technology, you see a number of countries, where Obama's visiting today, Kenya. It's been specifically good at looking at investing in technology in creating these little sort of innovation hubs where they will bring technology to existence and to life. That's now started to happen in agriculture. So in agriculture, you have a situation where innovation centers are being set up across the continent, but it relies heavily on one thing, even it relies on investment. Economists reckon we need about $50 billion a year to invest in agriculture continentally so it can start to leverage its potential.
Is that why Barack Obama is here? Is he going to give us the money before he leaves office?
Him personally, I don't think he's going to write that big of a check. He might give his grandmother a bit of cash to kind of expand her farm. I visited that part of the country a couple of months ago. It's up in the sort of the lakes region near Kisumu. It's very, very beautiful. But what he's most likely going to do, he's going to shine a spotlight on the agricultural opportunity, and he's going to be able to sort of open the floodgates for foreign companies, foreign investors, foreign banks to be able to provide microfinance loans to cooperative style structures in various countries so those farmers can come together, rent equipment, get educated and start to yield a benefit.
Terry, I hope that you are right. And it's not a mirage, because we need to really seize this opportunity. Thanks for joining us. As always, a man that travels the length and width of the continent, and no one knows more about what's really happening. And Terry says agriculture is where it's at, springing up all over the continent. Thanks for joining us.